Hello and welcome to Spring Boot tutorial. This tutorial is aimed at Java developers who have little or no experience using Spring or Spring Framework related technologies. Okay. However, it is expected that you know a little bit about web technologies, especially in Restful Web Services. Okay. So our objective, we will try to set up a Spring Boot project. Okay. And we'll try to build a Spring Boot project in our workshop. So let's first try to understand what is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot, right? I heard so many times that people getting confused. Sometimes people think they are competing technologies, they are totally different technologies, and they get confused. Which one should I start with? Should I start with Spring or should I start with Spring Boot? Okay, let's just try to clear that confusion first. So Spring Boot is basically built on top of Spring. You can imagine Spring Boot as a recipe kit which has all the right ingredients and all the right things in order to cook a dish, right? Let's take an example of pasta. If you want to cook a pasta, you buy this food kit. It has all the right ingredients, right? You don't have to worry about, okay, do I need half a kg pasta? What type of pasta do I need? Do I need 3 or 4 tomatoes? Do I need courgettes? Do I need I don't know, maybe other ingredients to go with it? No, everything comes pre-packaged. You just kickstart your cooking, right? This is exactly what Spring Boot does. So in order to build enterprise grade applications, when Spring was created, okay, you need a lot of configuration. You need to spend a lot of time setting up your project. Sometimes it can frustrate people because the whole idea of Spring was to make your life easier as a Java developer, right? So what Spring team did, they said, hang on, people are just repeating themselves again and again. They're writing a lot of boilerplate code to kickstart a Spring application. So they kind of created this pre-packaged or predefined set of configuration called Spring Boot. So Spring Boot makes it easy to create standalone production grade Spring based applications that you can just run. You may have heard sometimes it's called very opinionated framework. The reason why it's called like that why it's so opinionated, because this is what the team has done for us. They said, you know what, if you want to build a web application, there you go. You simply say, I want to build a web application. You want to build some sort of ETL job, you just specify that. Okay, so kickstart or starting the actual build is super easy, super quick. That's why it's called Spring Boot. All right, perfect. So what we are planning to build? So we are planning to build a product service, okay? And we will expose two URIs, right? Products, which will allow us to grab a list of all the available products. Okay, we will also be able to create products on the same URI. So because, as I said in the beginning, we'll be using RESTful services. So RESTful convention says URIs are URI, they are just identifying a resource. What you do with that URI depends on your method. So get will be used to get the products. We'll be using post to create a new product. Okay, if you would like to poll or pull a product which you already know the ID of, you will be simply using the second URI over here, products/prod ID, and the same URI will be used to update the product. To begin with, because the whole idea here is to just have an understanding of Spring Boot, we will be storing everything in memory, in cache. In the follow-up sessions or videos, we'll try to move all these things into some sort of maybe database. It could be a relational database such as Oracle, Postgres, or MySQL, or we'll try to use maybe some NoSQL, Cassandra, or MongoDB, or maybe Elasticsearch. All right, so let's kickstart. So what you need in order to start Spring Boot, what you simply need to do is you just open your browser. Okay, there we are. Type start.spring.io. This is basically a Spring initializer. Okay, super convenient, super easy. You don't even need to remember okay, how do I even set up the boilerplate project? This is what's going to do it for us. Okay, if I zoom a little bit, because my screen is quite big over here, just in case. So what you need to do is just keep everything as default. Okay, if you are familiar with Gradle, you can choose Gradle, but I'm gonna stick with Maven because that's what I like most. This is our package management and build tool. Okay, languages, you have option of choosing, you know, Java, Kotlin, or Groovy. We're gonna stick to Java. I'm also going to stick to 2.5.3. As long as it's like, you know, above 2.5, we are good. Okay, what we're gonna call group? Let's say our group is Sagu. Okay, our artifact is going to be eShop. Okay, let's select now, because as we you know, start building and build our confidence, we'll probably mature into eShop, like, which has all these things: order creation, you know, product creation, maybe some customer module, etc., etc. Okay, name, let's call this one products. Perfect. And we are saying eShop products service. Good stuff. Packaging, yes, we want to jar or war. If you know a little bit about, you know, web services, especially in Java world, old school, you know, you build a war file which you can deploy into some sort of, you know, application container. It could be you know, normal Tomcat, it could be JBoss or WebSphere, whatever. So you can choose this packaging. But convenient with Spring Boot is that you can run as a standalone application. Under the hood, it's going to do all the packaging, all the magic for us, i.e. it also has embedded Tomcat. I'll show you how convenient and how easy it is. Okay, Java 11, I'm going to stick to Java 11 for now. Now, this is where you need to you know, pick up your dependencies. You are telling now that, okay, what do you really want? I'm saying I'm building a web application. Okay, so I'm build web including RESTful application using Spring MVC. Okay, which is good. And see over here, it says uses Apache Tomcat as the default embedded container. If you want, you can change it. You can change it to maybe Jetty. Okay, or you can change it to maybe JBoss or some other type of containers. It doesn't really matter. We're gonna stick to the default one. Another thing you like to have is something called Lombok. Okay, reason why we need Lombok, I'll explain you in a second. It's gonna make our life super easy. Okay, as it says, Java annotation library which helps to reduce boilerplate code. Okay, I'll show you how. If you're not familiar with Lombok, you will appreciate how easy that is. Okay, that is the only thing which we need. You can put security, you can put test, you can put so many other things. Another thing I like to have is called activator. Yeah, I'll show you why we need activator as well. And do I have something called Swagger? I don't know if they do open API. They have open Feign. Okay, that's not what we need. How about Spring Fox? Okay, that's fine. So what I was thinking is we'll try to maybe expose our, you know, REST APIs using some sort of Swagger, but we can add that dependency later on. No worries. Once you have done all these things over here, simply hit generate and it's going to download eshop.zip for us. Now let's just go to our downloads. There we are. Okay, double click. This is our package ready to go. Okay, so you have pom.xml. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this thing. I'm going to go to my place where I, you know, usually keep my projects. It's easy to be kind of, you know, disciplined where you're gonna put your stuff. Okay, go home, that's fine. I have my projects, I have my temp. Okay, I can get rid of this eShop. Okay, let's just paste our eShop over here. Just remember, we have not added any code yet. What we simply did, we generated our project and we extracted it, and there we are. We have eshop.xml. Now, I am going to use IntelliJ as my IDE. I would recommend you use, you know, either IntelliJ or Eclipse or NetBeans, but use one of these IDEs. It's gonna make your life so much easier. Gone those days, like, you know, you had to use Notepad or some other type of, you know, the text editor. No, use the integrated development environment tools such as IntelliJ. Okay, so let's just start our IntelliJ. Okay, it's gonna load right here. There we are. What we want to do now is we want to say open, go to project, temp, eShop. All right, and pick up pom.xml. There are various ways in IntelliJ. You can import a pre-existing project, or you can say open pom.xml and it's gonna set up everything for us. I prefer this way. Okay, if you are familiar with IntelliJ, you can choose other technique as well. So let's just say open, and now it's gonna ask us open as project. Okay, I like this way better. Okay, so it is loading, and let's just bring that screen. Okay, there it is. So our eShop, so by default, this comes with Maven structure because we have used, oh my gosh, sometimes words, we have used Maven as our build tool. So this is the default layout for Maven. You have src folder, inside you have main and you have test, okay, and you have your pom.xml. Inside main, you will notice it has Java and it has resources, right? In Java, because it's a Spring Boot application, if you open products application, what you will notice, it comes pre-built or pre-packaged with a class called any class, basically application class, whatever name you give, but it's decorated with annotation called Spring Boot application. This is it. This is your Spring Boot application ready to go. If you are not using Spring Boot, you would have to basically build similar class, and you will have to decorate with so many these, enable auto configuration, Spring Boot configuration, component scan, blah 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 blah. What these guys have done, they kind of removed this thing for us and just given a very nice clean annotation. As I said, Spring Boot runs as a standalone Java application. If you are familiar with Java, of course, that's our prerequisite over here. This is public static void main. This is how you run any Java application. Okay, and what it's simply doing is saying spring application dot run, and you just pass your class name. Okay, and any arguments if you need to pass. So at this point, what we have done, we have set up our Spring Boot application. Now it's ready for prime time. Okay, before we begin, what we can do is we can simply run this application and see whether or not things are working. So if I just go ahead and say play, what it's going to do is going to build the application for us, and it's gonna start. That's the beauty of using IntelliJ, okay, or any IDE tool in that matter. So as you can see, by default Tomcat has been started on port 8080. Okay, and obviously it doesn't have anything, we have not added any business logic. So just head back to our browser and just type localhost 8080. At least this is telling us that web server is running. Obviously it's not up and running. Another thing, because we added actuator dependency. What is actuator? Actuator is production grade Spring's health monitoring system. It tells you okay, how's your application doing? All the load balancers or monitoring tool can use that service to monitor your health. So if I just type actuator/info, okay, it's not up just yet because we got the dependency, but oh no, actually sorry, I was typing something else. So as you can see, we didn't have to do anything. By default, we just added a dependency, and we have this service up and running, which tells us the health of our Spring Boot application. You can give this URI to your application monitoring team or application monitoring system, and it will keep on polling after maybe every 5-10 seconds, and it would know whether or not your application is running if they have to load balance it. Okay, that's the beauty of Spring. All these things are kind of pre-packaged and ready to go for your production system. All right, all good stuff at this point. Our Spring Boot application is up and running. Now let's start building what we want to do. So we want to build a product service. Over here, I'm going to use MVC, model view controller, some guidance from there. I'm not saying I'm going to strictly follow that. I'm going to take some guidance from MVC, and I'm going to take some guidance from domain driven design. Okay, so if you see me creating packages in certain way with some naming conventions. The reason is because I'm using the best practices or guidelines given by MVC framework as well as domain driven design. All right, so let's close this product application. What we simply need to do is, typically the convention is in Spring Boot you should have a package called controller. Okay, so let's create a controller. What is controller from MVC? Controller is the starting endpoint which takes control of user request, and then it can navigate or pass it on to some sort of internal services or data access objects. All right, so we're gonna have a controller. So let's create our first controller, which is our Restful web service. Let's call it product controller. Okay, what you need to do is you need to decorate this class with something called rest controller. What is rest controller means? If I click on the documentation, it simply says a convenient annotation that is itself annotated with controller and response body. So two-in-one things. Okay, it is basically able to handle our requests. So controller is good, up and running. What you can do here is, I'll come to that in a second. Okay, let's write our first method. What we want to do is we want to say public, okay, string products. Okay, so what we are planning to build is we are planning to build this URI called products. Okay, so getter. So the intention of this products is basically to return a list of products. Since we don't have any data access objects yet or data store, what we are simply saying is let's start building with maybe some sort of RESTful endpoint first, and then slowly we'll start going into that area. So over here, if I simply say return products list not available just yet. Okay, let's say we are informing our users like that. Okay, yes, you can argue that because this is a proper RESTful, why am I not returning any, maybe I don't know, 400 series that method is not implemented? Yes, of course, when you are ready for production, you will be doing all these things. Over here we are just trying to set up things. Okay, so you must be wondering, how would I navigate my users who are hitting /products to this method? So what we need to do is we need to decorate with another annotation called get mapping. Okay, in get mapping you want to say value equals to products. All right, there we are. Our products is done. Restart your application. Just simply hit this play icon right at the top. I hope you can see my screen. If all good, our application should start. Go back to your browser, just say 8080 products. There we are. Yeah, products list not available. If I try to go to any other thing, okay, just to prove the point that okay, things are not hard coded. See, we are getting 404 because this endpoint is not available. Products foo, for example. Yeah? But if I hit products, it's saying product list not available just yet. Good stuff. I think this is a really great progress. Now let's start building the second part of the thing, which is basically let's set up this product store so we can start having some data. What we're going to do is we will be using in memory. Right, when I say in memory, we're just gonna store in some sort of map data structure. Another convention over here in MVC domain driven design is that you should be passing on to either services in between, or you should be calling something called data access object. So I'm gonna pass service. I'm avoiding all the complexities, but let's just build a package called DAO, which stands for data access object. Okay, nothing fancy, just a name. This is how you kind of structure your classes in Spring using domain driven design. In here I'm gonna create a interface called let's start with concrete Java class, because the way I was thinking the interface is that you can have two implementations, one against like in memory, later on you can have against the database. But let's keep things simple. Let's call it product DAO. Okay, for now it's this class. Later on maybe we'll convert that to interface. Product DAO. Okay, simple plain Java class, but I'll come to that but in a second. Okay, so what we said, we gonna create something called list, and it needs to hold some sort of product DTO. What DTO stands for? Data transfer object. Again, this name is coming from domain driven design, which saying any data you would like to transfer outside of your application, or you like to consume it, you can put it into a package or place called which is only managing DTOs, data transfer objects. So what we are going to do now is, over here I'm going to create another package called DTO. Okay, not only you're learning Spring Boot over here, you're learning domain driven design as well. Okay, this is I like. So create a class called product DTO. See, it's not a fancy stuff. What it simply is, it's just a plain old Java object, or what you call Pojo. So what I want in my Pojo is private string product ID. I like to have private string name. Maybe I like to have price as well. Great. And I can have description. So string price should be double, probably. Yeah, that's a good way. And let's duplicate this and move below and call it description. Now, because we are following Java Bean convention over here, what Java Bean convention says, you need to have getter and setters. So there are two ways of doing it. You can right click on your IDE and say generate getters and setters. Okay, and it's going to do that. See, you got getter and setter, but I don't like this. It's so dirty. What we call sometimes IDE vomiting, because there's no intelligence in them. It's just like getter and setter, and as you start building your DTOs, this is just going to grow in complexity. I have seen DTOs with 300 400 lines. Stupid. What we are going to do is, we are going to use a very convenient library called Lombok. What you simply need to do is, you just need to say data. It will create getters and setters for us at compile time. You must be wondering, okay, if it's going to happen at compile time, how am I going to use while I'm writing the code? The thing is, I already have a plugin for Lombok in my IntelliJ. What it does, as you write the code, it compiles it and it's make it available in your class path, so you would not even notice a thing. Okay, another thing you can, so if I click on data, it basically has if I could download the source, what data has, it has getters, it has setter, it has required args constructor, toString equals _, value, all these things. You can pick up individually as per your needs, but I'm going to use and go with all. Another thing I'm going to use is called builder. I like this one very much. Okay, I'll show you in a second. You can use new and class name, but if you would like to have mutable objects, this is the way to go. See, we learned another thing over here, mutable objects. How to build immutable object, not mutable objects, because with new you have to have a getter setter, so the object written by it would be mutable. What we want to do is, we want to have maybe immutables, right? So, but because I have a data over here, it has getter and setter, I could have simply asked for setters. Okay, no problem. All args constructor. So this is the thing. Okay, we might be slightly off topic, but these are important bits to learn, right? Okay, so our product DTO is there. I'm just gonna say import. Good. Import class. Yes, I need Java utils list. Let's call it products product list. Okay, product list. What we want to do is, at this time I'm just gonna declare this as a private. So people from outside can't access it. And I'm simply going to say list of my elements. Okay, what elements do I need? I will start putting the items over here. So I can say product DTO. If I was not using builder pattern, what I will be saying here, new product DTO, and in constructor you'll have to pass those 20 parameters, right? Okay, sometimes it becomes very inconvenient. I'm going to use builder. Okay, and I will be simply know what I'm enriching with. So I'm going to say P100 dot name. Let's say it's some sort of Sony TV 65 inches. Yeah, let's just call it Sony TV 65, Sony 4K 65 inch. Nice. Okay, how much is it? I don't know, let's say 2000 pound. Okay, 2050 plus 50 pence. Why don't we tease these guys? This is how they tease us. 99, 2049.99. Stupidest thing ever, but come on, marketing guys love to tease us, don't they? Another thing we like to put is description. Okay, we can simply say Sony LED 4K smart blah blah blah. Who cares? Okay, so we got product ID, we got name, we got description. What other thing we are missing? So did you notice one thing? I didn't have to create this method called description which can take this thing. This builder did it for me. Nice, isn't it? Nice, convenient way. Okay, let's put another item into our store. So let's call it P200, and let's say this is our Sony 55 inches, and this is for, I don't know, 1049 pounds. Sony LED smart TV blah 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 build. Okay, so all good. So we have this thing up and running. Now what we like to do is we like to expose a method called public list product DTO. Okay, and let's call a method called get products. So what we are saying is whenever somebody calls get products, okay, you go to database, you grab a list of products. So since this is my in-memory store over here, I'll be simply able to say product list dot, that's it, product list basically, right? So I'll be able to return product list. Don't worry about it's mutable or immutable or not. Okay, that's not the point over here. Now, so our data access object or data store is ready, but you can access it. You can say new product DAO, and you can start using it. But we are using Spring framework over here. So what we want to do is we like to make it discoverable, or what we say injectable. Just remember one thing. What Spring does, Spring helps us with IOC, inversion of control. What is IOC means? You are basically giving a control of creating object, managing objects to a framework, which is Spring over here. Okay, this is the simplest example or explanation of IOC, inversion of control, giving a control to a framework. What Spring does, it helps us with dependency injection. What is dependency injection? It is basically implementation of IOC, right? So IOC being a software engineering pattern, dependency injection is another implementation of IOC, and Spring is going to manage the beans for us, but we need to tell Spring, please manage this Java class, okay, or bean. So there are few ways you can do it. The most convenient way is called component. Okay, so this is one of the annotations which Spring has given us, but we are not going to use this one. Reason being, component is very high level, you can use it to decorate any Java Bean class. We are going to use a specialized one called repository. Repository doesn't do any magic. It's the same as a component. However, as you can read now, it's basically, it helps with the documentation too. Readability is very important bit. Okay, I can say component and then I can say, oh, this class should be used for data access, and this is a repository, blah 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 blah. Why do I do that? Rather, I would be using annotation called repository. If you click on repository, it's quite important that as you go along, you read about this documentation. It says indicates that an annotated class is a repository originally defined by domain driven design. Okay, Evans 2003. Okay, and if you go slightly at the bottom, it's saying as of Spring 2.5, this annotation also serves as a specialization of component. Exactly thing what I said earlier. So as soon as you start decorating these classes, Java classes, with these Spring stereotype annotations, you are basically now giving the responsibility of managing this bean to Spring. What is the benefit over here? Dependency injection, yes, good. Practically, what you can have is, you can have several implementation of this DAO class tomorrow. Okay, let's say like this one is called product, in-memory DAO. Tomorrow you can have product, maybe Oracle DAO, or maybe MySQL, or some relational database DAO. You should be able to simply, inject those things at runtime, at startup time. Very helpful when you're testing your stuff. Let's say you have a application which is talking to Oracle or MySQL, but in unit testing you can replace that with H2 in-memory database. This is where the power of Spring comes. All right, enough of talking. Let's just get back to business. So why do we have error? Let's fix that error because I need comma. So we're gonna return everything which is in my data store. Okay, let's just come back over here. And how do I now tell my controller, or this is another bean basically, right? How do I now tell this class to use this product DAO? Should I be saying like product DAO equal to new product DAO? No, that's not what we want to do. You can do it, but you are then kind of hard coding the dependency. Rather, we will be using private final product DAO. Okay, product DAO. So of course it's a final, so it needs to know there are two ways of injecting this particular bean. One is you can decorate with annotation called auto wired. Okay, it will be auto wired automatically by Spring for us, but this approach is not recommended these days. As you can see, it's saying field injection is not recommended. It's not a runtime, sorry, it's not a compile time issue. It's not recommended these days. So we're gonna omit this. Instead, we're gonna go for something called construction based injection. Because I have declared as a final, so it must be either initialized over here or in my constructor. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to say add constructor parameter. See, beauty of IntelliJ or any IDE in that matter. Click on that. There we are. This thing will be automatically injected for us. If you are wondering, because if you have not used Spring before, you must be wondering, do I have to, or does somebody has to initialize or call this constructor first? No, Spring will be doing it for us. Okay, because this is our entry point. Before application starts, Spring knows how to construct this particular object or bean, inject it and make it ready for you. Make sense? I hope it does. All right, let's just come back over here. Let's start returning product DAO dot get products. Obviously it's gonna complain because it's saying you were returning string earlier, but we should start returning product DTO. Okay, let's say import class. Yes, Java list. Okay, all the errors are gone now. Another powerful feature of Spring is you do not have to worry about serialization of and DTO to some sort of JSON or whatever. It's gonna automatically, it has XML. Sorry, by default it's gonna serialize into JSON, but you can override it. Okay, and how do you override these things? There is another parameter called produces. In produces, you can say, I'm producing maybe text file, or I'm producing maybe XML. Okay, by default it's going to do JSON, and that's what we need, so we don't need to do much over here. All right, let's just start our application. Okay, our application is started, which means bean injection, etc. is happening. So earlier when we had 80 products, we were getting product list not available. If I refresh it now, boom, I've got 2 products. Let's just open this in maybe Postman. Okay, it's a nice graphical tool. Okay, okay, I'm launching Postman. There it is. Can I zoom it? Because I think it's gonna be too small for you guys. I don't know how to. Let's spend 1 second. If we can view, zoom in. Yeah, so it's saying equals is to zoom in. Okay, perfect, that's good. So if I now call products, as you can see, the JSON is coming at the bottom, right? There you are. Our SpringBoot first REST endpoint is up and running. Let's start writing the second one, which is adding a new product to our store. Okay, so how do we do that? Just copy this thing. Okay, what we are simply going to do is maybe let's just call it add product. Okay, so we are saying when somebody calls this method with post, again, what does RESTful says? If you want to create a new resource on the server, you should be using post. If you want to update it, you should be using, what should you be using? So you have get, you have a post, you have delete. How can I be blank? Oh my gosh. Okay, fair enough. There's another one which starts with post, put. I hate these blank moments. Of course, put. So if you want to update a resource, you will be using put method. Anyways, okay, so in here we're gonna consume product DTO. Okay, so expectation is customer should be sending this stuff for us. Okay, we may have to do little bit things, but let's see first of all how far can we go, because we will have to say this is a body type. Okay, let's say void. If we get lucky, we might be able to get this, but otherwise we may have to do a little bit more work. Product DTO. So let's save it, restart our application. So we have support for put now. So I'm gonna go back to my Postman because this is the only place I can do put now. So let's change that to post. Same URI. Okay, that's the beauty of URI. However, earlier it was returning a list. Now we are going to return a single item. Cannot read. Okay, we have to go to body. Okay, there we are. So I've got my body over here. Let's say product ID is same. Oh, sorry, I don't have to have product ID because we are creating a new resource and we are expecting server to define this thing, correct? Okay, if I was updating it, then I would be using the ID, and we'll try to do that as well. So let's say I'm adding a new TV. I don't know what size TV comes in, man. We already have 55 inch, we already have 65 inch, 75. Let's go with that. Let's just call it another grand on top of that. Okay, so what we are saying is JSON raw body blah 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 send 400 bad request. Oops, it didn't like it. Why did it not like it? It's saying path product is not found. A null value cannot be assigned to a primitive type. Okay, it did not like our pricing. So looks like it did come, but it's not able to deserialize into that. So temporary, what we can fix it, let's just put 0.0. So looks like it's not able to deserialize it properly. Okay, it's gonna fail again. Yeah, so what we need to do is we just need to say at body request body. Okay, and I hope that should fix. Sometimes I do forget to add these things, right? Okay, there we are. Perfect. Okay, so the only problem was that we forgot to add this annotation called request body. We need to tell our internal Spring that this is what our customer is going to send. And as you can see over here, I've got product DTO and I have Sony TV 75-inch with price, description, blah blah blah, all these things. Okay, let's go get back to our DTO, remove this thing. We don't want any default prices. Okay, so what you want to do now is, as we are moving along or marching along, let's just call product DAO dot add product. Okay, obviously it doesn't, this method doesn't exist, don't worry about it. So if you right click on it, or it's saying can't resolve this method, do you want to create it? I'm saying yes, please create it. Good. Product DTO. First thing you want to do is product DTO dot set product ID. Okay, what you can do is actually you can simply say UUID to begin with. What I can do is, since I was following this convention over here, I can be little smarter. I can say static int, static int, I don't know, ID generator or something, and we can start with 100. What we can do over here is, as we march along, we can say ID plus. Okay, so next time you get 100, 101, etc, etc, plus. Very crude ways, and well, come on, it's gonna work. Appreciate it. Okay, over here we are simply saying, because that's the convention we are following, plus you can actually write a method, right, which returns this for us. Okay, there we are. So what we have done, we have added a product ID in our this thing, and we simply need to now add product list dot add this new product DT. Okay, let's just remove this and let's call it product. Okay, so what we are saying is set a new product ID, because we want to generate that at server side, and we want to add this back to our product list. So next time when somebody calls it, it should be available. Restart. All right, now first let's try to how can I duplicate this thing? Duplicate tab, yes. So if I go with get first, so let's have this tab as our getter. Okay, if I say get, remember we just have two products to begin with, right? That's preset. So we have P100, P2101. Why do I have P201? Oh, because I forgot to do that. That's okay. Let's just restart real quick so we have a clean slate to play with. Okay, real quick restart. We got P100, P101. Now if I go to my next tab, I'm switching to next tab, and I'm going to post the data over here. I'm saying please add 75-inch TV with this price Okay, and this is the description. Just remember, we don't have that TV at the moment. We only have 65 and 55 offering. Let's say this is a content management system where, like, product team is managing. So if you say send, and it's gonna say internal server error. Why is it not happy this time? Okay, let's have a quick look. It's saying immutable collection. Okay, it doesn't. This thing is actually returning immutable stuff, which I was really worried about earlier. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so we don't waste too much of time, I'm just going to say, let's go old school. Instead of having immutable, let's just say private final. Okay, so in the constructor, what we can do is we can basically, I don't want to add this into constructor. What I'm simply going to do is I'm going to go old school, okay, equal to new array list. All right, over here in our product list, let's start with this very simple saying product list dot add this object first, and you add another item. There are ways, like, you could have copied the whole thing and then you could use the above way as well, but let's just be a bit lazy over here, go old school. Hopefully that error should now go away, because it didn't like we try to modify the immutable collection. There we are. Okay, so it's saying 200. Okay, because we are not returning anything. You can return 201 created or whatever else you want, but that's not the point over here. So now if I go to my get HTTP, earlier we were seeing 2 products. If I say send, can you see automatically third product is now available? I can go again, I can say maybe I don't know, Samsung TV, Samsung 4K 75. Let's say Samsung is doing some sort of deal, they are selling on 3009 Samsung TV. Product team wants to add this. Come back over here, there we are, we got fourth TV, and you can keep building from here. Okay, so I'm thinking not to build the next server where we want to update things, but you can very much do that. How you can do that? You can come back over here, you can have a put method, okay, and then in over here you will start consuming the ID, and then you'll modify it. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this session right over here. I hope you got good understanding what Spring is, what SpringBoot is. Okay, in the follow-up session, what we'll do, we'll try to go step ahead. One, we'll write the update method. Secondly, we'll try to connect to a data store. So keep watching. Thanks for your time.